Welcome back to the guide on making your first offer in commercial real estate. Whether you're an experienced investor or a first-time investor, this is going to ultimately show you the process that we go through to ultimately underwrite and make an offer that's going to ultimately succeed.
So in this video, we're going to share all the tips and tricks that we've used over the past years to buy the large portfolio that we have today. So grab a pen and paper and get ready to take some notes.
So welcome back everybody to Money Mondays, where we put content out every Monday to make you a better investor. And if you don't want to do the hard work, we have plenty of deals that are coming down the pipeline and you can invest with us.
So first is understanding the process, right? The process of buying is really a combination of first identifying potential opportunities out there, underwriting those deals, making an offer, and then getting it under contract and working that closing process. So Ben, let's start with the very first one, right? What does it look like to go out there and find opportunities? Like, what is the process people should do, whether commercial or residential? How do you go find opportunities to buy?
I think it's ultimately determining what your buy box is. We've talked about this on the show a lot in the past, right? It's ultimately what type of commercial real estate properties or residential properties do you want to buy, and what markets do you want to buy, right? And then identifying the sources to go out and buy those, right? In our world, most of the deals that we're going to be looking at are going to come from the real estate brokers, right?
Absolutely, it's all broker driven.
Yep.
So, but then in the residential world, if I'm looking to buy a rental portfolio, guess what? You're probably looking on your local, RIA, your local
MLS.
online MLS. Thank you, that's the word I was looking for, to kind of go out there and find deals, right? And so again, understand your buy box, like Ben said, get really specific, and then go out and find those people. And so for us, we're spending, most of our time in acquisitions networking, getting to know brokers, being the people they know can close, the people they know they can perform, so we can be the first they call whenever there's an opportunity that shows up.
Absolutely. So after you've kind of determined what your buy box is, you've established those relationships, now you're looking at deals. Now you got to make sure that the deal is actually a deal, because there's a lot of deals out there, but there's not a lot of great deals out there.
And even sometimes a deal feels good, right? For example, we wanted to buy an office building and it felt good. The basis felt good, but the numbers didn't make sense. And so again, deal is about underwriting. And so underwriting is the process of analyzing risk. And so what are you doing whenever we model? And again, we've done other episodes on this. We'll do future episodes. We're not going to dive into it. But really what we are looking at is what debt can we get? What is the revenue and expenses of the property currently? What can we make future revenue, the expenses for the property look? And then ultimately, what money do we have to bring to buy the property? And analyzing all of that to see at the end of the day, if we buy this property and make this investment, what returns can we get? And sometimes you might model a deal and it's going to be a 3% cash on cash and a 10% annualized return. Thus, that's not really our buy box, right? But sometimes you can find a better deal. Maybe that's a 8 to 10% cash on cash and a 15 to 20% annualized return, right? And so we're doing all this math, all this modeling to find those deals that we would buy.
So once you've found something that hits those returns that you and your investors are expecting, and it could be the 3 to 10. We've seen people that have those types of deals.
And actually, before you go on, I like to say every deal that got bought out there was an investor that was happy with that returns.
So you have to determine what you and your investors are looking for in terms of the return profile, right? But once you found that, you found the type of deal and the type of market that you want to be in, and the returns are there. Now it's all about drafting an offer that ultimately the broker and the seller will ultimately accept, right? So there's some nuances to the process, right? And typically it's a 1 to 3 page LOI is what we kind of talk about.
Which stands for?
Letter of intent. It's a non-binding agreement that you kind of put the business points in, and then you sign it, and then you submit that over to the real estate agent or the broker and commercial world, right? And some of the things that can be put on there is going to be purchase price, how long it's going to take you to close, how much earnest money are you going to put down? And then the commercial world, you're going to have non-refundable earnest money sometimes, right?
Yeah, and so really the big thing that kind of Ben's alluding to is really understanding who your seller is and what are they motivated by. So you could try to get things in there to be motivated. And so all of that goes into getting an offer that hopefully then gets accepted.
And I think some of that background, what's driving the seller to sell, is information that you can get from the real estate broker, right? Ferris does a great job of kind of just ripping that out and understanding what's really the driver here. And sometimes it's not always price, folks. I think price is typically the biggest driver, but sometimes people need a quick close. Sometimes they need certainty of close because they've gotten burned somewhere down the line.
Or they have a hard deadline, like a lender, they have a loan that's due. They got to close.
So they'll
that.
take a lower price with the certainty that you and your team can close the deal. So you have to find that information out, because those are the different nuanced pieces of the LOI that you should really focus on, right? People tend to get really focused on price, and sometimes it's terms. Yeah. So you're going to draft all of those things up, and then you submit that to the real estate broker, right? And then typically you're not the only buying group that's actually doing it. So it's a competitive process typically, and you're going to be competing against, who knows, 3, 5, 20 groups sometimes are going to submit an offer. And then typically what happens from there is the real estate agent will review all of those offers with the seller, and they'll typically pick the top 5 maybe to go into what they call best and final offers. And then from there, they're gonna scrub all the people that were kind of at the bottom of the pack, and they're gonna say, okay, you 5 groups are now in the best and final offer process. So they're gonna give you some updated information. They're gonna say, go back and sharpen your pencil. And that's their cue for you to essentially give them a better offer.
Yeah. So then, you go through this dog and pony show, and then you get picked. Yeah. So then what? What's the closing process look like, right? What are the mechanics there?
So the closing process, typically, it's going to be anywhere from 60 to 120 days long, right? And that's some stuff that should have been, put in your LOI, and it's going to be part of your PSA or your purchase and sale agreement, which is the binding document, the agreement that you have with the seller. And it's going to outline the different closing, things that are expected and the timelines that are involved. But typically 60 to 120 days. And at that point, you're getting shot out of a cannon, right? You're raising your money. You're going and getting debt from a lender. You're essentially trying to dial in your business plan and get all your quotes for your rehab and your general contractors. All this stuff needs to get dialed in those 60 to 120 days.
That's whenever you're calling the cavalry, right? You're calling in your partners, your teams, your lender, your broker, your legal, your equity, all of these things. You're putting all that together. And we like to say the closing process is really project management on steroids, right? You're managing essentially 8 simultaneous projects that are all going, essentially at the same pace in slightly different points in time, right? And you're getting them all to the closing. So that way, come day of close, right? Seller's happy, you've executed. Buyer's happy, you're legal approved of everything, the lenders agreed and funded the deal, you've already raised the equity, you brought the equity there, insurance is already in place, right? All of these things have to happen. And again, there's a lot going on, but none of it is hard. It's just a lot of different pieces, right? And so again, we've talked about this in detail on past episodes, and we'll have more on future episodes. But again, the closing process can be intense. There's a lot going on, especially those last 2 days, because unfortunately, a lot of people don't do much until closing week, right? And so,
not that it's us. It's typically the lender and everybody else that's involved in the transaction. Just they realize that this is now at the top of their pile of things that they got to do, and they start working.
Most of the year, it's not just a few days before closing.
The last 48 hours, I put it in though. I put in that work.
And so, that's it. That's the closing process. That's what it takes to get from an offer to closing, right? And then that's whenever the hard work starts. We've talked about property management before, and so go check out those episodes. But again, closing is really the easiest half of buying a deal. The harder half is the operational side.
So we hope you found that this video was helpful in understanding the offer process and some of the nuances that go along with it. Right? So remember, take time to prepare your offer, consider all the factors, right? And then go in there with some confidence and go out and win your first deal. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them right now. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on making the offer and everything in between commercial real estate.
We'll deep dive on each one of those in future episodes. So look forward to seeing you there.